In this video, I'm going to show you my updated skin tone painting technique thing. This is Groundeffected. My name is your dad. That's not right. My name is your dad, and welcome to extra spaghetti sauce in your beard. Every now and then, I work on my skin tones just to make sure that I can keep up to date and make sure that I'm doing the best I can possibly do with my own painting techniques. And at this point, I think I'm come up with my latest technique for painting skin tones. It starts out with my favorite flesh set, and this is the fairy flesh set from Nocturna series by Vallejo. Or is it Vallejo mixed with It doesn't really matter. This is the set I use. It's fairy flesh set. You can find this in Groundeffected Studios, in store or online. Check the description for the website. I'm going to use reddish flesh and base flesh to make a base tone for where I'm going to start my color of my skin from. Then using medium flesh and natural flesh, I'm going to start to build up some highlights on the skin so that it doesn't look flat and boring like your mum. Now I'm going to work this color almost as if it's a zenithal, and I'm going to spray this from the top of the model. Yes, the model is upside down because I'm holding it in my hand, but I'm going to be spraying this as if the light is hitting mostly from the top of the model. And once I'm satisfied with this base layer, I'm going to go in with some fairy flesh, and this is going to bring out a very bright highlight on the skin tone. Don't worry too much about being too light now, because we can darken this down later if we need to. We can also bring out the highlights if you didn't go dark enough. Just remember, skin tones is made up of many different colors, and it's very difficult to emulate this in painting. So what we're trying to do is just create a good highlight and shadow profile for us to work from later on. Now for the fun stuff, and this I have been seeing in the sideshow videos. I don't know if you know of these people. They make statues, really cool statues. I would like to have some of those statues to repaint myself. But what they do is they do a mix of a load of different washes over the skin. And previously, this has really made me feel a little bit nervous. And I never ever thought this was the right way to do it. I decided to paint these tones in all by myself every single time, until I tried this. And what this consists of is making a bunch of washes. I use these colors and a lot of water, and I mean a lot of water. You can do this layer over layer over layer, but you can't go back if you made this wash too freaking dark. Make sure it is super thin, and the first thing you'll do is start off with the yellow and slop this all over your model. This is just tinting the surface. You're not trying to paint this and leave bits in the creases. You're just tinting the surface. You could probably spray this on, but I think that dabbing it off with the sponge is what adds to that irregularity of the skin if you're looking for a realistic skin tone. The next step is going to be using the transparent red, and this is probably the most important step in my opinion, and this is to make sure that the paint has dried but not fully dried, because the next step you want to do is spray a little bit of alcohol over the top of the model. You want something that's a mister and not a squirter, and just kind of spray it very carefully and very quickly go in and dab up all that paint. What it's going to do is disperse the red, and it's going to make it look kind of like blood vessels in the skin and help with the irregularity of things. The next step after that is to add more irregularity, because I don't know if I've told you this, but skin is irregular. So to do this, I'm going to use ROXY flesh shade. I'm going to turn my airbrush all the way down so that the spray that comes out of it is actually just spatter of a couple of dots, and that's about all that comes out the airbrush. Once the dots have dried, I'm going to work on the next layer of wash, and that's going to be the blue wash. And this one, you want to make sure you get this out, because if you leave any of this in the creases, you're going to have a bad time. Now I'm going to take a little bit of ROXY flesh shade, and I'm going to add it into some of the crevasses and creases on the model. I don't want to go overboard with this, because this will give too much contrast and make things look almost like you didn't do it right, and you don't want to do that. Now the procedure is exactly the same for all the rest of the parts of skin tones that I need to paint. And technically, you could do this with a vast amount of skin tones, including dark skin tones and light skin tones. All you would do is change your base tone to start off with. So if you wanted a darker person, all you would do is start with a darker base tone and use these same techniques over the top, because skins pretty much are the same other than the underlying tone, which is exactly what I just said in the last few sentences. When you are applying the freckled, spotty Reichland flesh shade method step, you want to make sure not to overdo this. Don't make it into a ginger person if you are not painting a ginger person, and don't underdo this. Like, you don't want one spot, you want a couple of spots, but not too many. You don't want to overdo it, but you want to just have it look like skin. If you get a couple of bigger spots, it's not the end of the world. We all have moles and freckles and things, unless it's a specific character that isn't supposed to have any of those larger moles, then don't worry about it. Now the next step for me is to add a little bit more, I think, life into the skin, and this is just by using a little bit of purple. Usually I would use grimoire purple, but in this case, with the tones of the skin, I wanted to make it a little bit pinker, just because I felt like that might have worked. And to be honest, it works, but in this case, it was a little bit weird because I usually use grimoire purple. You can use grimoire purple in this step, or you can use a purple, a light purple, a pink, whatever makes you feel happy in the gut. After these have dried, you want to go back in and start to work up your highlights again. And these highlights are going to be done with Fairy Flesh, and I'm also going to use that white color that I still can't remember the name of in the box. These paints need to be super thin when you paint them over though. You do not want to be spraying very dark, highly saturated colors because it will definitely ruin your piece. You just want to make sure they're very, very thin so you can layer them up and get the contrast and the lovely blend that you need. Now of course, the rest of this model is just working on the eyebrows, and this is something I've gone over in many videos before, so you don't necessarily need to see that. As well as painting the eyes, I'm going to show this, but I'm not going to talk you through this part. I'm going to leave you with a little bit of a montage. Now hopefully you managed to pick out something out of this video that helps you or inspires you with painting your own models. Of course, you don't have to use the entire technique. I don't use even my own first technique anymore. I have now mixed and matched with so many different styles and techniques that at this point I don't even know what's going on. All I know is what looks good, and I just apply that in each instance. Of course, the more you know, the more you can use those tools in your own models to your advantage in the future. And I would like to say a super special thank you to the patrons who've supported me thus far. This light blinding my eyeball is not able to blind my eyeball without your assistance. I'm gonna get back to making some more videos, and if you didn't like any of the videos, then you should probably f*** off. I just recorded that whole video with my face too close to the camera.